All right, welcome to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. We are here tonight with the legend herself, Laurie Dyer Hood. How are you doing tonight, Laurie?
I'm doing great, except for that part.
Randy made me do it.
Uh-huh.
He paid me cash money. So,
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, I don't make the rules. All right. So, hi, Stephen, again. We all know you as the creator and founder of Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. I would not be sitting here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. So a huge thank you to you for that. And I wanted to kind of give everyone a little backstory on you, that you began this journey over 20 years ago, and then began Nite Callers over 10 years ago. So you've been in the game a long time.
Old.
No. No, but you've been around the block. You've seen a lot. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly over the years.
Getting even older.
That just means you're getting more wisdomous.
Let's hope.
So, one of my questions, because usually I ask, how did you get started in this? Well, most of us have listened to your shows before. We know how you got started, with your sighting. It's in your bio. So I want to know, over the years, you've seen how you started and where we are now with technology and evidence collection and stuff like that. So tell me how you started out gathering audio, for example, audio. What was that like when you began versus now?
Well, I had a Radio Shack cassette recorder and stock mic that you plugged in. And every 30 minutes, you would flip the tape. And I would have a stack there, and I would set the alarm so that I could, and I put the recorder outside the window and then lowered the window so that I put the microphone out there. The recorder was inside, and that's what I would do every night. Every 30 minutes, I would flip that tape.
And to
And
clarify,
then,
she lived out in the middle of nowhere. So it wasn't like
right,
she was like in a subdivision.
no, no. And it was very quiet. But some of the recordings, it was during the summertime, and we had a AC unit going. And so a lot of the best recordings I have that AC unit humming away through it. And but that's where I had the most activity, was in my yard at night. Actually believed that I had a Sasquatch coming up to my window. And I recorded them coming through the yard. And it could have been something else, but I don't know what. And then one November, um, I got the strangest sing song. How I I don't know. It sounded like somebody doing a cappella, and um, I don't believe it was a fox. I don't know what it was. So I sent it to uh, down to the Center of Bioacoustics down in Corpus Christi. I think it was Corpus Christi. Gosh, it's been 20 years ago. But they could not identify it. They said possibly a fox, but they 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 don't think it was. So anyway, I actually heard it again, but I wasn't recording at that particular time. I heard it again. So it was exactly the same as the first time I heard it, but it was 2 years later. So, and I got to remember to look at the camera. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm
Um,
watching you,
but
so it looks like I'm not paying attention, but I am.
okay. So I don't know, did I answer that? But
Yeah.
anyway, since then, um, Olympus came out with a much smaller one, and it was all digital. But in the beginning, it was all cassette tapes, and I have boxes of cassette tapes, and I can't even say, even though I've took good care of them, I can't even say that they would even play now. But I still
Mm-hmm.
have the recorder.
Yeah.
So, and I used it for a long time, probably about 6 years, until the Olympus came came out with the digital recorder, and so everything from that point's been digital, including the Zoom I have now. But there are people out there that have some amazing equipment, and yes, I would love that, but I'm having trouble figuring out the stupid Zoom. I am. And I
She's
just like
honest.
I like it to be simple. And of course it's not crystal clear, but I feel like I'm more likely to get out there and be dedicated to it if I'm if it's
Comfortable.
just simple and not a hassle to me.
Yeah, if
I
if you're
mean,
comfortable with your equipment.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I love Bionic Ears, and they've quit making those. So
Yeah.
if you have one, hang on to
And be
it,
careful
because
with it.
and be very careful with it, because they do not make those anymore. I
Mm-mm.
have like three, and not all three. There's something wrong with all three of them. They've just been through it. They've traveled all over the place and bumped around in my trunk and everything else. And so, if you have a bionic ear, be careful. And I know there are better things out there now, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
But for anybody who wants to record, you can just about get away with a plain Olympus recorder and just set it somewhere where you believe might be a good location.
Mm-hmm.
Cover up the light on it, and cover it with a plastic bag, but leave the microphone out,
Yep.
and cover it with leaves. And go back the next day. You might be surprised what you get.
So I know that when you first got your parabolic dish, you were pretty excited about that, right?
Yes. Well, the first time I ever listened to one, I was down at the sawmill entrance, and you know where that is, down in Angelina National Forest. It's not too far from the dead end.
And Boykin
And so
Springs,
it
where
is,
we just got done
yes,
camping.
Boykin Springs, yes. But
Death to
anyway, I
Boykin.
was down there, and it was first time I ever put headphones on and was listening through the bionic ear. I thought something was breathing. And I was like, it's following me. Everywhere I go along the edge of these woods, that breathing is following me. That's how stupid I was. It was a bionic ear the whole time. It was me breathing until I held my breath. It
Oh my
took
god.
probably 2 or 3 minutes for me to realize that it was me, but my heart was like pounding, and um, I just knew I had a Bigfoot in the darkness. And so anyway, yes, the first bionic ear I got, I was so excited because I could now just not get up close sounds, but I was picking up distance,
Right.
and sounds way off in the distance. And they say they're only good for like 300 feet, but I think they pick up far more than that, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. So I love a good amplifier,
Yeah.
and it picks up the stuff that you get off in the distance. And distance seems to be their MO. They
Mm-hmm.
rarely are going to come right up,
Yeah.
unless they feel completely safe.
Right.
So
So that was a game changer. Um, so you said you mentioned that you sent that audio off to be analyzed somewhere else. So how
Mhm.
much, so you did that. Was that the first time you did that, or did you do that more than once?
Uh, No, that was the only time I did that
Okay.
because most of the time I could identify or I was able to identify what it was.
And how did you
Um,
go about identifying back then? Because, now we just type it into YouTube or a Google web search and it pops up that sound. So how did you go about verifying back then?
a lot of time it was through other people. I would send the sound to them and they would say, "Oh, that's a owl," or uh, like one of my uh, friends said, "Oh, that is gray herons. They
Yeah,
make the weirdest sound.
they do.
They really do."
Yeah.
Um, Even screech owls make a really strange sound. If you hear it out in the woods, it's kind of a, I don't know, kind of a huff or I don't know what it is. It's a weird noise.
Yeah.
I figured out what it was, but at first I couldn't. It almost sounded like a cat hissing
Mm-hmm.
in a way and a huff, like a combination of the two. But anyway, I couldn't figure out until I actually put a flashlight on it. That's what it was.
Mm.
But a lot of times we just had to rely on other people. And also, for the longest time, well, not for a long time, but I thought we had chimpanzees in the woods.
Yeah.
And I would tell everybody, I've been hearing chimps. Well, they're thinking like, ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah.
But I was
No.
thinking that of the
The
barn owl,
yeah.
the banter. And so I didn't know that barn owls made that
Mm.
sound. And so
It'll freak you
so
out.
it will, and a barred owl scream
Hmm.
because they just sneak in and they just let it out. It'll give you a heart attack. I swear it will.
Yeah.
And people misinterpret that um, as a Bigfoot sound too.
Hmm.
I was I'm bringing up the audio channel that I've been working on. Um, I've discovered listening to all my old recordings, and I'm trying to get all of them up to where they'll be easily found because I won't be around forever. And Lauren's certainly not going to go through my totally unorganized mess
I
of,
love you so much, but I will not be doing that.
yes, recordings. So I didn't want them to be lost forever because that is my passion right there. That is what I've worked all these years for. Lost many nights of sleep, many days of listening to audios.
Husbands.
Husbands um, have lost money, have traveled, wore out cars. And so, yeah, what is it all for? So I could have a collection of audio, and that's what I have. And so, anyway, but listening to this audio, sometimes I see that something I labeled as possible Bigfoot was actually something I am now aware of what it really was,
Hmm.
whether it was a coyote or an owl or whatever, or a frog that can
Yeah.
make some strange sounds. So, that's um, basically it.
Yeah.
So, did I answer the question in a long
Yeah.
roundabout way?
No, absolutely. This is your show. Um, so so Squatchy Nights Audio is the name of your YouTube channel. And so what
Yes.
she's been doing is she's been compiling her audio into a video format, adding, just little scenes and stuff. But she, instead of doing, how some channels, and nothing against them, but some channels will start out with this like long explanation. So you have to listen to the whole thing and then it plays the audio or shows the picture or whatever. And you have to like sit there through it. Most of us fast forward until they stop talking, and then we just want to see the thing or hear the thing.
Right.
So what mom did, because she couldn't stand watching that, so what she did is she puts the verbiage on the screen. She puts the words up there, explains what's happening in the clip, what she thought it was, what it turned out to be, and then she plays the clip for you. So she explains the situation. She said, we were all sitting in our cars, we had this many audio recorders out, and then this happened. You're going to hear this, this, and this. And so basically what she's done is she's taken over 20 years of audio evidence, and she has turned that into an educational channel. So for new researchers coming on scene, that they don't have to make the same mistakes that she made, like, oh my God, that's a Bigfoot, it's a frog. Oh my God, that's a Bigfoot, it's an owl. Oh my gosh, this is a, so, and there's been stuff that she's put on that channel, like the hogs. I've never gotten audio of hogs. I've heard hogs while I've been in the woods, of course, but I've never gotten audio of a hog. And so she has, and that's actually one of the very first videos that she put up. Her videos, it's an educational resource. And I think that's awesome that somebody with her tenure in the Bigfoot community is passing on her legacy and educating others, so that, we can kind of build off of that and not make the same mistakes, and kind of learn to identify stuff. So Squatchy
Yes,
Nights audio.
yes, and it's on YouTube. I still have a lot of stuff to put up, and I have only put up 4 videos.
That's enough.
And I'm sorry, I've been kind of busy. So,
About to get
but I
busier.
promise that I am going to. I had made up my mind I was going to do one a week, but that hasn't happened. And
It's
so,
okay.
but I heard from a good friend today, Henry Edge, and she was so encouraging. Yes, I love Henry.
Yes.
And she was so encouraging. She said it was such great stuff. And it just really made me feel good because there is audio out there that is just amazing, clear, just wonderful audio. And in the process, I'd run across some of this, but it wasn't mine. And I didn't know whose it was. Well, I finally found out whose it was. And I was so jealous. I almost put the whole thing, just blew it off. I wasn't even going to do it
I
because
had to talk her back
that
into
audio,
it.
yeah, that audio was so clear and wonderful. And my audio is not that. It is not that, but it is real and it is mine. And it has survived 20 years, a lot of it.
It's still
So,
educational. It's,
some of it is
so
more current, but
yeah.
yes. But I where was I going with this now? I can't remember.
I don't know either.
What's the next question?
Do you guys have a question? Stephen or Randy? Okay. Well, Alan Lassiter.
Hi, Alan.
Yeah, Alan's been waiting patiently for you to come on my show so that he can ask you questions. Sorry, my touch screen. Yeah. He wants to know, do you ever get nervous or scared going out researching?
Oh yeah.
Now
I've
she does, Alan.
always
That eye roll is because my entire childhood, this woman wasn't scared of anything at all. Guess who's like that now? Except, okay, I will say, Stephen will call me out. I am my mother when I'm in the woods, unless there's something paranormal going on, and then I am out. Stephen and I had a foot race. Okay, go ahead, Mom. Sorry.
what was the question again?
Do you ever get nervous or scared going out researching?
Oh,
yes. You said yes.
Yes, but I think the reason why I get nervous anytime I go into an area that I feel like they're in. You just kind of feel it
Yeah.
when you get there, and it's just it feels squatchy, and I always am kind of a little on edge or anxious.
Yeah.
probably more than nervous. And then, but scared, I haven't been scared in a long time, and I miss being scared. But when I first started, I was scared a lot. And
What?
yes, yes,
No.
oh yeah, there was like one time when I knew one was standing just right there,
Oh, yeah.
and I could hear its stomach turning upside down, and I mean I could hear his stomach growling like way up here, and um I couldn't smell anything. It was dark in there, but I knew he was in there, and I think I could have put my hand out,
Yeah.
and touched him. Yeah, I was so scared that when I was walking away, my legs were like spaghetti, and I couldn't hardly control them.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
that scared because I was that close to him and I was by myself. And it's raining. Oh, I hope it doesn't get loud.
Oh, it'll be all right.
Okay.
I can't really hear it.
I
Okay.
think it's storming too because the wind's blowing. I'm
Great.
getting nervous and scared.
Well, let me just say that, okay, she may have been nervous a few times, but I vividly recall times when I would beg her to leave. I would be like, please, mama, can we go? Mama, can we go? Mama. And guess what would happen? Lauren's ass would be sitting in the car by her damn self, hiding under the van seat. Guess who was still out researching? Yeah, not Lauren. You were a great mother. I love you. Okay.
I know, I really wasn't. But let me say
You
this
were. I'm
is
kidding.
I don't know what I was thinking dragging you out, but I'm glad I did. But what I do want to say is that at first I did get scared, but I kept going out in the woods and kept being around them, and I just kept experiencing it and over and over and over in different situations in daylight and dark. And I just got kind of where I felt like I wasn't. I knew what they were going to do because I think the thing that makes most people afraid is because they've heard all the different kinds of things that they're going to do to you. And so they're terrified. Am I going to be, are they going to squeeze my head off like a big grape? Are they going to kill me
Mm-hmm.
or, um, you know,
Worse.
or worse? And all of this, but I realized that the Sasquatch where I was at were were very bashful. So they would show themselves just a little bit, not, I would just catch a glimpse of them, but I could hear them as they were uh, shadowing me and things like that. I could smell them. I could feel that wall that I would run into, the urine smells. Um, just I knew, and after a period of time, I just kept pushing myself. I pushed myself through that wall, and I keep going, and I just kept pushing myself. So after a while, I really wasn't scared because I knew what they weren't going to come out. Even if they were bluff charging me, they
Mm-hmm.
weren't going to come all the way out. They'll stop right short of being seen, and they
Yeah.
did every time. And so people thought I was crazy, that I had a death wish, but it was just because I understood how far they would go in Texas. Now,
Yeah.
in other states like Alabama and Mississippi, Georgia, whoa, that was thunder.
It was lightning.
Yes. Okay. So,
Ooh, these are like campfire stories. It's very spoopy.
yes, yes. So, anyway, um, I'm getting a car wash.
Probably need it. So you were kind of in your element down there, and you felt okay pushing it to the next, pushing the boundaries, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I was really blasted for it by my not coworkers, but my associates. They
Mm-hmm.
just thought but they were from a different area and their spots were different than mine.
Yeah.
And I kept telling them it's okay here because this is the way they are. Now, this is the way they are in Deep East Texas. Now, in other places, I wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I am more careful when I go to other locations, but I know what these guys are going to do. So,
Right. um I
sorry.
I just think of all the times that you would walk Cookie, her dog, and she would just like go on these long meandering hikes through the woods. And I just remember that there were others that other Bigfoot researchers that would hear of her doing that, and they would just freak out because,
Oh, yeah.
little lady shouldn't be out walking by herself, and she don't even carry a gun, and just stuff like that. And like she said, she felt comfortable and in her, comfortable pushing that boundary where she was. So, and you have to think like where she lived, her first sighting, basically this individual had been watching her for a long time.
Yes.
They had watched her out in front of her house. They had watched her all around her house. They had watched her walk the trails. And I mean, so they knew her. They knew she wasn't a threat. They knew that, she didn't consider them a threat, that kind of thing. So these were the kind of individuals that lived around her house. They knew her. So she felt comfortable going out into the woods that they wouldn't, do anything stupid to her. Okay. Shane Corson is not able to be with us tonight because he's at Bartfoot, I think, with Bart Catino and all of them out there right now. So, and he was sad he couldn't make it because he really, like, he's a huge fan of yours, Mom. So he was sad he couldn't make it. He said,
That's a surprise.
you have a lot of fans, and he's been watching Nite Callers longer than his show Monster X Radio has been around. So
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, wow.
He has two questions. First one, what is the hardest thing you faced in the Bigfoot field?
The way people are. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Is what their true agendas are. And you think that they're such wonderful people, and then you find out their agenda has nothing to do with the same agenda you have, which is seeking the truth and all of that. It's more about something else entirely. And that's the hardest thing, was learning the hard way, the good people out there, and then the people who are out there just to make a name for themselves through using Bigfoot. And and they're not your friends, and they don't love you if you succeed more than they do and they're angry with you about it. That is not a true friend, and that is not love.
No.
So that was the hardest thing for me.
Good answer. Second question. What is the most exciting thing that ever took place in the field for you?
I think it was when we were down on can you hear me okay over this rain?
I can hear you, yeah.
That's really coming down. I think I would have to say the most oh gosh, that's gonna be loud. 1,000, 2,000. Okay.
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think the most exciting thing was when we were at Land Between the Bridges.
Yes.
And it is an area that it's just like a a field, and right in the middle of this field is a creek that forks, and it has two bridges on it. And there's a little piece of land in between the two of them. And on both sides, and it's surrounded by trees. And then on both sides are these big open pastures. And it seems a very unlikely place. And the only reason why we chose it was because it had a fork in the creek. And I've always heard forked creeks, or if you can get close to a forked creek, it's a really good place to, to research. Well, we had gone there several times. Whoops, sorry. We had gone there several times, and we didn't really get a whole lot. But one time we went there and we did some calls and nothing happened for about 45 minutes. I know this because I started the tape when we got there, and then I was still doing cassette, and I flipped it over after 45 minutes, and it was on the back side of that tape that all this happened within just a couple of minutes. And it was, we heard this distant howl, then we heard another one, then we heard another one, and it was getting closer and closer. And then the next thing we knew, we were hearing howls on the other side and on the south side. So we were getting it from the east, yes, the east, the south, and the west. And it was just like coming in, converging like this. And you can't tell that on the recording. But the people that were standing there were like going, oh crap, oh crap. And it was like, get by your door, get inside, and all this stuff. So, anyway, of course, me, I'm trying to stick it out. I'm trying to stick it out until the very last minute. Well, everybody else is getting in their vehicles, and then all of a sudden, this banshee just lets loose. It is feet from me. I am not kidding. And this is just a regular stock mic. It's not a bionic ear or anything else. So it doesn't seem as loud as you would imagine being there. But we were freaking surrounded, and it was terrifying. And I got in, and I couldn't. Of course, when it's over there on Squatchy Nights Audio, if I don't remember which one it's on, I think it's Destination Bigfoot Part 3, I think.
She does have it uploaded, and
Yeah.
she explains all of what's going on. But you guys,
Yes.
it is my favorite audio of hers. It
It
is
scared the
freaking creepy.
it scared the pee out of all of us. And I mean, we were rattled, but excited at the same time because none of us had ever experienced anything like being surrounded like that. And it was like once we got in the vehicles, we could still hear them. And of course, but we had everything rolled up and all, but we could still hear them. And I had the mic inside, but it was wrapped around the top of the door. And so it's banging all around. So I did have to do some adjustments there because it will bust your eardrums, the original.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, then it just got quiet. It's just like it stopped. So we're all sitting there. We got the cars running. Our equipment, a lot of our equipment's still out. Um, and we're, you know, I lost the backpack. I guess in all the rush, it got knocked out. But the other vehicle, they had some equipment out on a tripod, a recorder, and or maybe it was a camcorder. I don't remember what it was exactly, but I remember they argued over who was going to get out to get it. I think they did rock paper scissors,
And
and
just to clarify, these were males. These were grown
one was the
men.
male, one was the female, and the female ended up getting out. He did not get out. He did not get out.
It's
And
like
this
Lauren
was
and
when
Steven on the hill.
he was a totally brave, excellent researcher. He
Mhm.
really was. He had a lot of tracks, track and Um, he was really a good researcher, but I think he was just beyond rattled. And being
Mhm.
a man, um, I think men are more vulnerable out there. They are more of a target.
Yeah.
And if a Sasquatch is going to be aggressive, it's going to be aggressive towards male before female. So really, he did the right thing by staying inside, but it didn't probably help his.
Cred.
Yeah, yeah, it probably did. Yeah, and but I bless his heart, we were all shaking.
Yeah.
And then it took us till this happened about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. We were still all wide awake and just pumped with adrenaline. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was the most exciting. It was a once in a lifetime. It will never happen again. So
It's phenomenal audio, you guys. I mean, you just hear it, you hear some howls in the distance, and quicker than you can think, they are on top of the recorder screaming. Whatever these things are screaming on top of, right on top of, and then all of a sudden you just hear doors shutting, you hear mics moving, you hear people talking, everybody's
cussing.
freaking out. Yeah, there's some cussing. Sorry, Stephen. There's some cussing, and there is, so it's very authentic. Like if you listen to it, you can feel the emotion. It was a high adrenaline situation that was caught on tape, and I think that's awesome. So that's just one, it's one of those situations that we experience as researchers, and some of us researchers that we thrive on that adrenaline rush from it. It's one of those. um, I'll go ahead and admit I'm one of those. Okay. Um, Alan Lassiter would like to know, what was it like being touched by one?
Oh my goodness. The only time I was ever touched by one, it was through a tent.
Well, that's what he's
And
referring to.
yes,
Thank you for
the,
clarifying, though.
it was, and this has happened to other people too, not particularly with their feet, but you know, the hand coming through the, you know, pushing against the outside of the tent. Well, with the way I was sleeping, the way the tent was, it was on a slope and it was right next to a creek. And anyway, my sleeping bag kept sliding down the cot, and it was not so cold. I was, I was actually sleeping on top of the sleeping bag and had a blanket on, but I always keep my feet out because I sleep hot. And so anyway, my toes kept going into the side of the tent, and I would scoot back up, just grab the top of the cot, pull myself back up with the sleeping bag. This was like every 20 minutes. Well, one time I was just about asleep and my toes were touching the tent and I did not care. And I'm sure they were poking out pretty good, on the outside. But I felt something. It felt like something had a hold of my toe. And I thought, that doesn't feel like it did before. The other foot doesn't feel that way, because both of them were poking out into the tent wall. It had felt like there was pressure, and it actually felt like the pressure would release just a little and then press again. Well, when I went to pull, something did have a hold of my toe. And I mean, I could tell, it wasn't like just, I mean, it was something, there was pressure. Oh my God. I was like, oh my goodness. So I scooted up and I got into the fetal position. I was just listening. And I said, I could hear everybody that was in camp. They were all snoring, every one of them. So I know they weren't jacking with me. So that's what I thought at first.
Mm-hmm.
They were jacking with me. Well, that even scared me worse because I mean, not scared, that's not the right word, but just knowing that I was touched and it was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next day, I got up and I told them all about it. It took me a long time to go to sleep because I was just like all ears.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, there were tracks. We found tracks coming out of the creek right to that corner of the tent where my feet were. They didn't go anywhere else. They went right to that corner of the tent. So they must have been down in the creek looking at that, poking out and trying to figure out what it was. And it just got the best of him. He just had to go up there and pinch it to see what it was. I
They're
don't know.
curious. I'm just picturing
Yeah.
him like going to grab it, and then you pull your feet back, and he's like, okay. Going to grab it, and you pull your feet back, and then he finally got a hold of it.
I know. And it was so dark. Of course, I didn't see any shadow. I never heard anything. He was absolutely quiet. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Very creepy. Yeah, so in Falk, I've had this happen at least twice. I've had my tent messed with at Alex Smith Park,
Some
and
other people did too. That's
some
why.
other people have had something. They walk up,
Mm-hmm.
something walks up behind your tent, and it just goes zoop and runs a finger down, but it waits until your breathing evens out and they know you're asleep. And that's when they do it. And it's like, I mean, right after you fall asleep. And it happens. And it's just like you wake up and you're like when it happened to me, I had both kids in there with me. And I remember looking at the door because I wanted to know, is somebody trying to come in my tent? Am I going to have to shoot somebody? And so I thought it was the zipper, and it wasn't. And then I realized, like, after I was laying there, I was like, that came from the back of the tent. So something had walked up and bzzz. And what's funny is the night before, I had been sleeping. Usually I sleep in between the kids, but the night before I was sleeping with my behind right up against that side of the tent. Needless to say, when I sleep at Falk now, our mattress is in the middle of the tent, and but I think Dustin, he had something walk up and
Yes.
right behind his tent, and he ended up like calling out because he thought someone was messing with him, and it wasn't. Like the person he thought was
Mm-hmm.
messing with him was over in their hammock, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
That was the same night that another friend of mine had a sighting at Alex Smith Park. He had watched one walk and circle back around all of our tents and head off into the woods over there. So anyway, I'm really glad that it didn't do it while my derriere was touching the side of the tent, because I'd quit researching. Like, just when you ask if I got touched by a Bigfoot, we're gonna have to just Alan wanted to know, sorry, Stephen. Alan wanted to know, have you experienced more than one at any time? I would say this.
Well, I'm sure there was more than one at Land Between the Bridges,
Right.
but I think I've never seen more than one
At a time, right?
at a time. But I think that there's been times when we would be out researching that there would be like one on one side and one on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say this is because we'd be getting blasted with infrasound from both sides. And we know this because with infrasound, you can actually block it by getting inside the vehicle. It helps block it. Getting behind the vehicle, getting behind somebody really big. I did that with Indy. He was probably 500 pounds, and I got behind him, and I couldn't feel the infrasound anymore. But then when I stepped out, I would get hit with it. And so, but when you're getting it from both sides of the road, it takes two individuals to do that.
Right.
So I would think that there have been several times there's been more than one that I know of, but it probably more than one more often than I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say
I
that.
know, especially down there at Booger Hill where I live, there's usually more than one. There's usually two and sometimes three.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we just gauge that by eye shine,
Yes.
shadows of them,
Yeah.
and things like that. So, yeah.
So when I was there this last time, this was like a month ago, I guess, or maybe less than a month ago. I actually had my first sort of sighting, enough of something that I actually would call it a semi sighting. I was pretty excited, but so I saw a figure, I saw eye shine looking at me, and then it turned, and then it stepped, and then I saw the outline of the figure. Well, before that and after that, there was eye shine off to the left as well. And there were definitely two individuals that night. Uh, that I mean, just it was just crazy. And I've seen and had it happen too many times that, and Stephen knows, because how many times have we been in the woods? We hear a call, we hear a noise, we hear something, we look over there, and all of a sudden, here comes a rock or something making noise over here. We look away and it's gone.
Hmm.
I was actually flaring with Stephen, and I was looking up in the tree, and we were talking about there was something odd in the tree, and I kept looking at it, and I didn't have any reason behind this, but I kept thinking that it was a young one in the tree, like a smaller one. And I was fleering and I was looking at it, and then a rock hit like right beside us, and we looked over, and then of course whatever was in the tree was gone. So I think that they do definitely run in pairs. I know a lot of people think the sentinel theory that it's just one looking, which it might be, but I think if you enter the woods, there's definitely going to be more than one there watching you. Or there will be one within calling distance, and a tree knock, bam, they come
Right.
this way, you know. Um,
I think it may start out as two and then end up as one,
yeah.
but it is never just one to begin with. I think it'll be one and then another one will show up. And then if you just spend hours and hours out there and you're not really doing anything and they're just going, well, they're really just standing out here and they're not doing anything. And you go hunt, I'll sit here and watch, watch
Yeah.
these people. I think that's kind of what happens, because eventually then all you really hear is one,
Right.
you know, and they're trying to be quiet, but they're not that quiet. So
Um, Alan wants to know, do you think they travel in packs or clans?
I think they do when they're moving, like going from one destination to another. I think they do. But most of the time, I think the family unit stays in one location and then the, their juveniles spread out and do their little learning. And then the adults, go and hunt and gather food and stuff like that. But I don't think that they travel in like a group unless they're moving destinations, I think. I mean, but I don't really know. But this is what I feel like anyway would be the probable answer.
Do you guys have any questions? Oh, Randy has a question.
I do.
What does it feel like to be the legend?
No, that wasn't the question. Um, when you started 20 or so years ago, how many women were involved in researching and stuff? Or was you one of the very few?
I was actually one of the very few. There were some women on our team, but none of them were really doing what I was doing. None of them were, well, number one, they didn't really have, from their location, they didn't really have the area so accessible as I did. All I did was walk out my front door, walk across the street, and I was in the woods. And it was so much easier. And all I had to do is stick a recorder in the window. I mean, it was fairly easy for me. But the other women were I was a pain in the butt. I will tell you right now, with the men that we associated with, they wanted us to do it a certain way. And I was not going to do it that way. I was going to get out there. I was not worried about what would happen to me. I had to know. And I told them, prior to this, for 20 years, I've been going in the woods fishing and camping by myself. Well, not by myself, but you know. But anyway, um, and nothing had ever happened to me. And so I didn't believe the stories that all this was going to happen to me. But the other women, were cautious, a lot more cautious because of the stories. And there wasn't a lot of information out in those days about, not like there is today. Not and the women in this field today, amazing work they're doing. And I know there were other women out there. It was just through our infrastructure, we had just very little internet based stuff going on out there to where we could actually meet other people that were doing the same thing as I was. So I did feel kind of lonely there, as far as I had some great friends, but the friends that I had, they weren't doing what I was doing. And they also told me I was crazy sometimes too. So there, that's it.
I come by
That's
it
what I said.
honestly.
Yes.
I've never been more proud to be considered difficult in my life right now. I mean, I have
I
been
was though. I was a stubborn redhead, and I just was not going to. I was going to do what I wanted to do. I couldn't stand it. I had to know, and it was like nothing else in the world mattered. I was so obsessed with knowledge and finding the answers, because the woods have been my life. I didn't know there was something like this in there. And when I found out there was, oh, Katie bar the door. I had to find out about it. So
that's my mama. All right,
mhm.
Stephen has a question. Stephen, did you hear me stutter? That was ridiculous. Okay. I can't read lips, Stephen. You have to unmute or type it. Oh, okay.
I don't know how to tap it on this.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi,
I've
Laurie.
seen him.
I just have to ask the question.
Okay.
With all of your years of experience, what advice would you give to someone who is just getting started with this?
Great question.
Let's see. Well, I think my advice is, I'm sorry, keep kicking my little stand. My advice is to find a good area that you can go to consistently over and over and over and over, because that's what I did. That's when stuff really started happening. And also, whenever you hear something, try to find out what it is. Not everything we hear out there is Bigfoot, even though it sounds like Bigfoot when it's blowing up right next to you out in the dark woods. Let me tell you, it will.
Yeah.
And then when you get home and listen to the recording, you go, oh, that's the deadgum coyote, But when it's up close, it sounds like something completely different. But that, and oh, I think the consistent area, just go in that area if you can every single day, where they get to know you, and then things start to happen. And I don't know about gifting or anything like that, but maybe after you've been going in there for a few months, you might try leaving a gift. And I I don't know. I just kept going in there. I was obnoxious. I went in there every single day looking for tracks, looking for structures, looking for broken limbs, anything I could find that was Bigfoot. And um, and they're watching me, and I know they know I know. Well, anyway, they know. They know I know, and they know what I'm doing, and they didn't seem to care. It was more like, well, she comes out here every day, so I get to look at her every day, and I get to follow her around every day. And this is interesting.
Mhm.
She's following the same trail, and she doesn't really go off trail. She just stays on the trail. Because if I went off trail, I get lost, to be honest. And I've been lost several times. So I just stay on the trail. But see, that's what they want you to do. They want you to stay on that trail. And I think that's the answer. Consistency. Okay.
I agree. Great
Am
answer.
I making you cry, Lauren?
They know I know, they know I know.
I know.
Because it's true. It's true.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
when you're a Bigfoot researcher, you go into the woods with a different attitude than normal humans. A hunter will go into the woods and you can just tell. A
Right.
nature enthusiast will go into the woods and you can tell what they're looking for. A mushroom hunter will go into but a Bigfoot researcher, when we go in the woods, they know that we know that they know that we know that they know. You know,
That's right. We
they
might
just
as
know.
well have a foot stamped on our forehead,
Yeah.
you know?
Like you can act like you're just oblivious, but you're aware. And they know when you're aware versus
They know you know.
they know you know they know. We need a
You
shirt
know?
that says that. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Great question, Stephen. Mom, I don't think I've ever asked you that before. So yeah. A lot of people, when I told them you were going to be on Zoom tonight, they were like, well, you already know everything she's going to say. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, my mom and I talk almost every day, but I don't interview her. So her official answers,
She doesn't care.
I do. I just save it for my shows. I care. Anyway, okay. Well, Alan has a great question.
Okay.
Have you ever found any handprints?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. I found a handprint on my window, and it's 16 feet up on the 2nd floor. But it looked too small to be, it looked human sized. And so I didn't think it was a Sasquatch. But then also we've seen handprints on vehicles, like at campgrounds where we would be camped at, and it would be a large handprint, like on somebody's tailgate or on their window. And I've seen all of those, but I've never really seen a handprint like other than that one on my window. And I think
which
I don't
window
know
was
how
it?
it got there. It was the window over my computer desk right there.
There was nothing for it really to stand on to make that.
No,
But how did it get up there?
I don't know. All I can figure is that it must be Mark's hand because, he was working. He may have been working on the side of the house or something, but it was there for the longest time. And it was like greasy, kind of, it left a residue for the longest time. I tried to take pictures of it, but it just wouldn't come out, So,
Huh.
yeah. But it was
I don't know.
a handprint the same size as mine. It wasn't like NBA basketball player,
Yeah.
long fingers. No.
Now I'm picturing like two juveniles, with one on the other one's shoulders, and they're like,
Well, maybe. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what's over there. There's the she has an air conditioning unit that hangs out of that window. It could have stepped on there and, balanced to look in there pretty easily, but What else is there's a tree right there, isn't there?
There is a tree right
There
there.
is a tree. So it easily could have been something else.
Maybe.
Okay, great question from Alan, another one. But I'm gonna tack something onto the end. He said, "Are there any other cryptid creatures that you study?" But I'm gonna follow up with, "Have you had any other cryptid encounters?"
Oh, great. Well, I did see what I believe was a snouted Bigfoot, but it could have been a dog man. I did see that. But I think I just want to believe that it was a snouted Bigfoot because,
Yeah, same, especially since I visit you often down there.
yes, yes.
All right,
But
go ahead
there
and tell us
wasn't.
about that. Shall you?
Okay. Well, I was at the sawmill in Angelina National Forest. It's the old Aldrich Mill. I'd gone down there with a group of people. And when we got to the very front of the mill, we started hearing these kind of off owl sounds. And this is during the day. Well, let me back up a little bit. When we first got there, we're coming down the path, there were some forest workers. And the gentleman that we encountered was, he was there with another guy, but he seemed really nervous, shaky. Maybe he just needed another fix. I don't know, but he seemed scared, and everybody noted that he seemed upset and scared.
Right.
Well, so then we went on down the trail, which was probably, I don't know, a little over a quarter to half a mile from that area, and to the sawmill. We were standing in front of the sawmill, and we started to hear these strange owls. Uh, it it was during the day, which there are owls during the day, but what was so strange, it just had a strange, odd sound to it. So everybody picked up on that. Well, the guys all took off. There's probably 4 or 5 guys. They all take off into the woods after this owl. Well, me and this girl, we just stayed there. We were walking around on the outside of the sawmill, and we were at the front of it. And I was listening to the owl sounds quit, but I would hear that owl sound every once in a while. It sounded like it was coming back this way. So all these little birds just started, how birds will predator alert. Well, that's what they were doing. And I said, something's coming this way. So I kept turning on my camera because I wanted to get a picture. But my camera was freaking dead. I mean, story of my life, it
Yeah.
always happens. But anyway, I know it was charged, but now it's dead. And it would come on, and as soon as you would hold it up, it would turn off.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm watching, and I'm looking, and I'm following these birds, and I'm just following the sound of the birds around. And then when I get over here, there's a little opening in the woods, and I saw this thing walk by, and I only saw from like the chest up, and its arms are down, and I saw its profile, and it had a snout. And I'm like, and I can't look at anything else. All I can look at is his nose. I couldn't look to see if he had ears or anything else. I was just focused on the snout because I was like, that's a Bigfoot, but it has a snout. It was like a baboon snout, like it was boxy. So then I watched it as it disappeared. And then there was another little, I just kept watching, hoping I'd see it again. And it appeared for just a few more seconds to another little clearing in the leaves. And I saw it again, but it was more turned by this time. And I was looking, and I still was focused on the snout. But I noticed that it had like a strong jaw structure right here, like a kind of kind of kind of like a pit bull. It had the jaw there, and so I looked at that, and I was telling everybody about it. Um, and of course, they went running after it, and I went back to the trail hoping that maybe they would chase it across where I could get a better look at it. But I guess by the time we got back down to that little bridge where those two workers were, um, they were already gone. They were waiting on their ride.
Yeah.
The was what it was. They're waiting on their ride.
How did it walk?
It walked really straight, almost.
Like Anubis?
Yes, yes.
Creepy.
It was freaky. It was freaky because it wasn't really hunched over like a Bigfoot was. It was very straight and, yeah, like Anubis. Except I couldn't tell if it had ears or not. I remember Harvey Pratt was asking me about that. Said, what kind of ears did it have? And I could not recall even seeing any ears.
Because of the snout.
So, yeah. Well, I believe I was so hyper focused on the snout, just threw me off. So, but then around Jefferson, actually, more north of Marshall, there is an area that snouted Bigfoot have been seen before. So, along that Big Cypress Creek, or Big Cypress Bayou. And so they've been spotted around in there too, and they're snouted. They have no ears, they have just like regular ears, but they have this foxy snout, and they're very mean and aggressive. So,
Pass.
Me too.
There was a story actually from where you live now about a potential snouted dogman Bigfoot being.
Oh, yes. Yes. The lady that we bought some land from said that back in the 70s, they were just one lot over. There's an old homestead there, but at the time, there were people living in it. And this is back in the 70s. And they were out on their porch, and running right next to their property is a pipeline, an oil pipeline. They saw, it was probably between 5 and 7 in the evening, they saw a dog man. I mean, literally dog man. I mean, had the ears, had the dog-like body, was walking upright, and walked across that pipeline. And they saw it. And then there have been other people that have seen dogmen in Nacogdoches. So Nacogdoches County, capital of dogmen, I think. I don't really want it to be, but
No.
I think it is.
No,
Well,
and there's just other. So the thing about Dogman is that there's sometimes there's a paranormal aspect to Dogman, and
but I know nothing about them. I don't want to know about them.
So on that property, there is something. So there's there's that pipeline that she's talking about. Well, that pipeline dead ends at a creek, and that creek runs right behind that property, her property, the next property, and keeps going. So this thing, whatever it is, follows that creek. And so I have gone out there before and researched, and I've started at one end over here on that pipeline. And then I moved over to this old cabin still on the creek. Whatever I smelled and was there at this location, I went to this cabin. A few minutes later, here it is. It's right here at this other location. It traveled up that creek. And it can easily travel that creek and get point A to point B right along the backside of her property. put it this way.
Well, now this was back in the 70s.
That
and
was
so
back
that
in the
was like
70s.
40 years ago. So I hope that sucker's dead. I hope he died of old age
Well,
and he's
his
not around
son,
anymore.
something is still there because
Right.
we were having something happen that followed us to that other location. Put it this way. I was there with 2 Bigfoot researchers that I have seen go out into the woods and never be scared. They would not get out of the Jeep. Like,
Okay.
I
I
was
remember that.
I was sitting.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't her. It was 2
I was watching the children.
One was a Tennessee Bigfoot researcher, the other was a Texas Bigfoot researcher. And they're both pretty brave. I've been out with both of them before and watched one of them walk off into the woods. I mean, pretty brave. When we got to the cabin, I moved to the middle seat. Now, there was somebody sitting over on the other side in the back seat. I moved right up next to them and rolled my window up. And everybody's looking at it. They're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm not sitting near the window and I'm not getting out. I said, you guys can get out. I'm not getting out. Because I had run-ins with this serial killer cabin before. I hate that cabin. So, well, they roll down their windows and they have the sunroof open. And I had asked, I said, have you guys ever played like a wounded rabbit or anything like that? And he said, yeah. He said, but I'll go ahead and play one. So he played it and we sat there and nothing happened. And I was like, well, are you guys going to get out? And they were like, no. And they wouldn't get out of the Jeep. And so so it was just very interesting to me that they wouldn't get out, because when you go out with somebody that like, they're always the first one out of the car, and these 2 would not get out of the Jeep, which was fine, whatever. Well, then later on, we all go back to my mom's house, which is like just a little bit right there, the next lot over, like she said. And I went to bed. They left and went back home. My brother was sitting out on the porch. What does he hear? He hears a wounded rabbit come out of the woods, a noise come out of the woods. Could have been an actual wounded rabbit, but it was a weird coincidence. Anyways, just saying.
Not only that, but he and I saw eyes shine. First,
Good.
we saw it over here, and then we saw it over here. And I said, I bet you they're heading over to the 9 where they played that wounded rabbit.
Yeah.
And then he heard the wounded rabbit. So.
Just creepy. Your house is creepy. I'm sorry, it is. I
know a lot of people leave before it gets dark.
Yeah.
They say they don't want to be out there after dark.
It's a completely different place
all the time.
It's a completely different place after dark, I will say.
It is beautiful on a full moonlit night.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's magical. It's like you expect fairies to pop out or something.
It's really nice. And so she has like mason jars with lights in them, like twinkle lights, not twinkle lights, but they don't flash or anything. They're just like a strand of lights in mason jars, and she has them hung from the trees out around the edge of the woods. And so if something walks in front of it, you can see it. And she also has a Bigfoot cut out there, but which expert Bigfoot researcher that I am, I walked right by the damn thing, didn't even see it. So, and they were like, and I go to walk up to the house and she's like, did you see it? And I'm like, see what? She's like, there's the Bigfoot. And I was like, well, shit, no wonder I ain't never seen one. I'm oblivious. Sorry, Stephen.
I don't know how she didn't see that.
I walked right up to it, didn't even look at it. I was on my phone. I was videoing on my phone. See, texting.
Hyper-focused in the wrong direction.
I walked right up to the damn thing. Didn't see it. I didn't see it till Adam was like, look, Mom. I'm gonna have to take Adam with me when I research. Apparently that's the only way I'm gonna see a Bigfoot. For real, that kid is very observant. He is his Nana's grandbaby. He is a good little researcher. I wanted to ask, you have had quite a few sightings. How many sightings have you had so far that you count as a confirmed sighting?
Right. 5.
Okay. What was your scariest sighting?
Probably the last one, when it was belly crawling across the lawn. and that was
Not a fan.
it
Would-
was it
would
was
you say-
pretty.
Would you say it was a night crawler?
It was definitely a night crawler.
Okay,
that
go
was
ahead.
pretty scary.
What can you tell us about? What can you tell us
Well,
about that?
Me and a friend were sitting out on the porch, and I don't think we did any calls or anything like that, but we were just out there talking. It was the moon was out, but there was a lot of clouds, and they would cover the moon and get real dark. Then the moon, the clouds would move on and get real bright. And out there where I live, full moon nights are about the best way to see them, because I think they're always there, but I think you can see them when it's like the full moon doesn't really deter them. So anyway, we saw, wow, okay. So we were sitting on the porch, and all of a sudden we saw eye shine by the big oak tree, and big oak tree's about 50 foot from the corner of the porch where we were sitting. Of course, she was sitting on this side closer to that oak tree than me. But anyway, I said, wow, I see eye shine at the oak tree. And she says, I see eye shine too. Then we saw eye shine on the other side. And then when the moon came out, you could actually see an arm going around, or a whole half of a body. And I said, oh, this is amazing. I said, he is hiding behind that tree, and he's peeking out and all that. And so here we are, dummies. We say, come out and come see us. Come over here. Well, I'm going to tell you something. They know what you're saying. Maybe they read your mind. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but he did. When that moon went down behind the clouds again, or back behind the clouds again, and it got dark, the moon came out, and we're looking over at that tree, and we don't see him anymore at the tree. And then I see something moving along the ground, and it looks like this silver square. And I said, in my eyes, I will be the first to tell you, I can't see good at night. My night vision's terrible. So anyway, I said, what is that on the ground? And she says, that's him. He is belly crawling. She had great night vision. And I said, oh my God, that is him. And so it's I couldn't really make him out, but I could see that there was something big moving across the yard towards us from that tree. And she said, that's what it is. And then she just screamed out, stop, stop, don't come any closer. Well, I watched in shock as he stopped, and then he just started backing up. I guess exactly the same way he was coming forward. I don't know. He was on his toes and fingers, and he was completely prone, and he was just backing up. And I'm like, oh, have you ever watched the excerpt of The Exorcist that they never showed that part, which he's coming down the stairs upside down, looks like a spider? Well, this was just as freaky as that to me. I was just freaked out. I was like, how is he doing this? And then the moon went behind the clouds. So we're sitting there going, where the heck is he? I don't know why I didn't get a flashlight. I'm not big on lighting them up. I hate to do that to them. I feel like that they'll come back if I don't light them up, and that maybe they may offer me a better look at them next time, or they'll stay longer. Or I don't like to light them up. So we just sat there in anxiety, waiting to see if he really did make it over to the tree. Well, then the moon came back out again, and we're looking, and we don't see anything on the ground. But then I see something moving over by the tree, but I thought it was just a bush at first, but it wasn't. It Eventually I realized it's him, and he is sitting over there on his butt, and he's just rocking like this, and he's just rocking, and it was just so
Creepy.
it. He just started going faster and faster. It was, I don't know. I don't.
Creepy.
She was completely coming apart, and I was like, okay, come on, let's go in the house. And so I took her inside, but I was wanting to stay outside. I really was. But then I had my audio recorder going on out there. And do you know what I heard? As soon as we went in the house, you could hear the door click. He growled. He was like the most, well, this is a bunch of BS growl, you know? That's exactly like these funky women. First they tell you to smoke, then they tell you to go back. And then when you're over there just behaving yourself, then they run in the house like a bunch of little weenies. And yeah, that's exactly the kind of growl it was. And I just thought, here was my chance.
Yeah.
You know, I could have tried to communicate with him or something, but it was like it was so unexpected when it happened, and we just weren't ready. And we obviously are not professionals. And I mean, it just blew our minds. And I hate it that I can't tell you how many times I've walked away from a situation because someone else wanted to. And but I didn't want to stay there by myself either. But I wanted to stay and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, the woulda, shoulda, coulda thing.
Yeah. What's what do you think is worse whenever you regret walking away from a situation that you wish you would have stuck it out, or have you ever had somebody walk up and ruin a good situation? Like you're having something go on and someone walks up. Steven's laughing because I've had this happen. Someone walks up and tanks what you're like, something's happening, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing over here?" And it's just done. I'm sorry. It happened. That was my first me and Steven were having like our first, like it was our first time researching together, and we were having massive infrasound. And it was actually the first time I'd realized that Steven could feel it as well.
Right.
And we had someone walk up just like, "What are you guys doing over here?" Like, is something going on? Anyway, have you ever had that happen? And which do you think is worse, when you leave the situation or when it's tanked for you?
When I leave the situation, that bothers me worse. Now, I had one time we were watching one, and I don't count this one because it was just a blob in there, but it was definitely moving around, and we were pretty sure because when it looked, it had eye shine, but it wasn't really. We know it was probably a squatch that we were looking at, and then somebody comes and takes night vision away from us, and we're looking at one, quite sure we're looking at one, and they come and take it away because there's a possible one somewhere else, and we're like, oh my god. But yeah, that really kind of got me pissed off, but excuse me. But yes, that
Sorry,
did make me
Steven.
mad. And but the regrets, that's what lives with you a long time. You
Yeah.
can't help what people do, but you can help what you do, and that's what I have to live with. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where if you could go back in time, you were watching something that you wish you would have just took off into the woods after it or towards it, like you would have walked farther in to see it?
I can't tell you how many times I've looked at my video and go, why didn't I slow down? Why did I go through there like this? Why didn't I go through there like this? You know, I mean, that's why I do audio, because I cannot do video without making people sick. Yeah.
That's why I see a lot of the people that wear GoPros, and I think it's so awesome because you can catch some great stuff, but some of the GoPro videos, even my own, I wore a GoPro a few times, and reviewing my GoPro footage, I'm like, this is not for me. Like, this is awful. I was glad I was wearing it because I had some cool experiences while I was wearing it, but I have to say, which do you think is worse, reviewing video footage from a GoPro or reviewing hours of audio?
Yeah. Oh, I think the video is more interesting, but the audio, it's so, when I listen to it, I want to go to sleep. And I never used to be that way. It was like I would hear something and I was on high alert. But now it's such a relaxing sound just to listen to the nightlife that I just, wait, I'm listening. I mean, I just want to go to sleep. So I have to listen to it in like 2 hours, 2 hours at a time. Otherwise, I'm just beyond city. I mean, unless I really get something.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do. And another thing I'd like to say for the newbie people out there that are recording, that, you can put it on Audacity and look for the high points, chain course, and, but
Chris Spencer.
I have found the most amazing sounds in the ambient. So I listen to all of it. And
she is far more dedicated than a lot of us.
But when just like Chris Spencer, is it Chris Spencer? Yeah. He has to listen to like 100 hours of audio.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to use Audacity. If I had to listen to 100 hours of audio, I'd be going crazy. Only record what I'm willing to listen to. And that's just the way I work now. I'm not as dedicated as I was 20 years ago. I probably missed a lot, I know,
but how much have you caught through listening to the ambient sound versus, so it's
Most
kind of an
of it.
even trade.
Yes. I will get, a lot of the long distance sounds are caught in the ambient. Just little whistles, little huffs, clicking with their teeth, wood knocks, not close, but a wood knock, an authentic wood knock. It won't show up on Audacity. I mean, only very close vocals are really going to pull up a signature, like coyotes or Bigfoot or whatever. It's going to throw up a signature. But your ambient noises is the little noises that there's little jewels in that ambience. And
very well said. I had a question. Crap it. Give me a minute. Does anybody else have a question while I try to remember my question? Nothing? Come on, guys. Come on.
Okay. Sure. All right.
What was my question?
With those wood knocks, that's something that I've rarely ever caught on audio. And
even walking out?
What?
Even walking, like after you set your recorder and you leave the woods, you don't catch one like right then?
Yeah. Most time whenever I catch one or something like that, it's usually when I enter into the woods and stuff like that.
Not when
And
you leave them.
I've done that with video whenever
Mhm.
I've entered into the woods, and you go back and you try to listen to it on a video, and
Yeah.
you just can't hardly pick it up, even though you know it's there.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Wood knocks are kind of frustrating to me. Trying to record those.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's,
and I will say that 20 years ago, there were a lot more wood knocks. And in
Mhm.
some areas, there's still a lot of wood knocks. But
Yeah.
for the majority of the places, wood knocks is very rare anymore.
yeah, that's William and I have one spot that we go to, and we get more wood knocks there than any place else I've ever been. But I mean, it's mostly a hardwood forest. So
Yeah.
so I guess I would have to be part of it. You know, they seem to be a little bit different there than in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that.
Mm.
Wow. I know my theory, because I remember when my mom first got into this, wood knocks were the rage. Like you would go into the woods and you'd take a bat and you just whack, whack, and you would get responses. You would get the same number that you did, or something like that. Like you actually got responses to wood knocks back then, and whoops and stuff like that. But now you are hard pressed to get a response to a wood knock. And my theory is what you study, you also change. They've adapted to all of us being out in the woods doing that. And so, they've changed what this means. I do know that when you go in the woods, you still get one knock to say, hey, they're here. But
and I rarely ever hear that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Really.
Anymore.
They may be so used to you. Yeah. They could be so used to you that they don't even do that.
Yeah. That's a good point. But I know, Stephen, that you have a great sentinel theory. Like so Stephen actually taught me about the sentinels, not the tree knocks so much, but just something that he's noticed that they do, like especially in Arkansas, is whenever you taught me about it.
Yeah, I do believe they have watchers. There's no doubt to me that they have that. I've seen evidence of that at our ground zero area where we've actually found tracks where William and Cindy had been there, and William had spotted the sentinel north of where ground zero is actually at, since it's all a big cutover. And we've gone out there and we found tracks. And what we actually found was about a 15-inch track. Now I think the other one was around 9. So it actually had a young one with it.
Wow, that's so great.
Like it was training it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like it was training it, And that's interesting stuff to me. It's
So what Stephen taught me, so as humans, I will tell you something that a lot of us don't do enough. We do not look up enough. And so we were out on a person's property, and we were trekking up this ridge, and then he pointed out this tree, and you could see up in this tree, well above where any humans would be, it was smooth, like it was a rough bark tree. I don't know what kind of tree it was, but it was smooth around this one area. And he said, it looks like a sentinel tree. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, see where it's smooth? That's where it's climbed up there. And it's that worn area, and it sat right there. And if you were up there, you could see through the clearing, and you could see the road coming into the pasture in front of the woods. You could see the house. You could see anytime a human would enter that area from that tree, from that vantage point. And ever since then, I have noticed this. I look for vantage points, and sure enough, a lot of the time there will be a tree that is rough bark, and then in one spot, perfect vantage point, it will be worn smooth from where something has been up there. And I learned that from Stephen. Like I don't look up enough. I really don't. I'm gonna die death from above one day. But it was fascinating. I had never thought about it like that, that they were watching us, and that they know we know they know we know.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And then I think near that tree, there were actually some weird tree things going on, like an entire tree turned upside down and stuck in the fork of another tree pointing towards that tree. Like it was a pretty interesting spot.
Mhm.
I would say it was not a tree stand wear on the tree either. Just to go ahead and clear that up, it was not man-made. It was just a worn area, and then the rest of the tree was fine. It was pretty interesting. Definitely something to look at the next time you're in the woods, for sure.
He needs to get some pictures of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven.
Okay. If I can make it back up there in September.
I know
Okay.
that. Yeah. What weekend is that? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was in the Washitas. That was near Mina that we found that. So, or
Yeah.
Steven found that.
Yeah.
That was
That's
the
awesome.
same location that we had our paranormal experience and got chased out of the woods. So,
Yeah.
Steven, you can go take pictures of that tree. I will wait on the road.
I'm going to do it in the daylight.
I don't know if that would help. It was near, they said that they were not Indian burial mounds, but they were mounds of some kind.
Yes.
And on top of these mounds, these stone mounds, there were, and I have pictures, there was some kind of weird pile of wood pieces, stick pieces that were piled. That was on top of this stone mound in a series of stone mounds. And then behind the stone mound, there was a stick structure. And when I say stick structure, I mean it was like this big. And it was sticks interwoven, and they were standing up straight in front of a hole. Now I talked to a friend of mine about that, and they said it sounded like a snare. Like, so if something comes out of that hole, it could have been a snare trap. Now I have the pictures, and I haven't looked at them since, because I showed him the pictures, and then I could kind of see what he was talking about. But it was creepy. It was like Blair Witch creepy up there. Okay. And then we had my headlamp died, and we were already getting creeped out. And I looked at Steven and I said, my headlamp just died. And he goes, don't tell me that. I kept trying to turn it back on, and it kept dying, and I had charged it. And so we decided we were going to vacate the area. And I pulled out my recorder, and it was also dead. And I was like, okay. So we try to leave, and Tanya, may she rest in peace, was not vacating quickly enough for us. So we get to the bottom of the hill. She's not with us. We are sitting there trying to decide whether we're going to go back and drag her down the hill or not. And I was wearing Steven's night vision around my neck, and the strap breaks, and it falls and misses a rock by like this much and just bam, hits the ground. And I was like, all right, we're going to the truck. So that area, I will say that, and I asked, and the person had told me there were Indian burial mounds around there. But when I asked her the next day, she was like, no, not in that area. No. And I was like, well, there's something. And it did not like us there at all. It was creepy. Have you ever had a paranormal aspect to your research, Mother?
Yes.
You want to tell us about that? We'll wrap it up after this question. How about that?
Okay. Let me see. Well, I know that one time when we were out researching, we had a glowing green orb come floating by.
I don't like it.
And then there have been other times where we've picked up EVPs.
I don't like it.
And one time we were on a bridge, and I was recording out the beer window. And
Out the what?
beer window, you know, on pickups they have those windows that open up, and they're called beer windows in East Texas. Okay,
It's called a rear window everywhere else.
okay, but it's the beer window in East Texas. Anyway, I had to the bionic ear pointing down the road. Anyway, I heard like some weird, it was a woman's voice, but she wasn't speaking English. And she like just went blah, 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 like that. And it was coming from under the bridge. So
I don't like it.
could it have been a Sasquatch? I don't know, but it was weird. Yes.
I don't
So
like
it has
that.
been-
Where was
you know,
that?
they tend to go together sometimes.
Where was
because
that? So
where
I
there's
don't go there.
It was on the Upland Island Bridge, Wilderness Bridge. That's where that happened. We went there.
I thank you for telling me now that we've gone there.
Yes. But you know, the thing about it is that a lot of times you can go to a cemetery and be looking for ghosts and you're going to get Bigfoot, because it seems like they tend to inhabit the same areas. Why, I don't know. The dead end, for instance. Sometimes it's ghosty, sometimes it's Bigfoot, but it's never both. But
I don't like it.
sometimes I imagine, yeah.
I will
No,
say
you don't.
Boykin Springs, there's a cemetery in the campground, and there's never not been activity at Boykin Springs.
Yeah.
So, and we always camp
Yeah.
near the cemetery, of course, because we're
Yes.
brilliant. I can't believe you took me there. What? You didn't say anything. You didn't.
What is the point in telling you something? It was only, I have been there 20 times, and one time I heard a voice coming from under the bridge.
One time is
Once.
enough. I do not consent. What
Then
is it
you
with
would
you
not
and
be-
Matt? Y'all tell me these things after I'm in location or have been there. You're like, oh, by the way, a ghost pushed me out of my chair today while I was sitting here 5 feet from you. It's fine. Like, why do you guys do this to me? I'm just saying.
I'm just saying you need to just put your big girl panties on, because it's a part of it. It is a part of it. Yes, it is. I said it.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna remember that. Mhm. I thought you were gonna tell the story. So this one time, last story, and then we'll call it. This one time, speaking of parabolic dishes, we were on a bridge.
Oh my God. Now that, yeah. Are you talking about when Larry Porch did that to me?
We
Is that
were
what
on a
you're talking
bridge.
about?
Mom had the parabolic dish pointed, facing out. And Larry had done a call. Well, we were waiting, and she had the parabolic dish pointed, and she had her hand on her headphones, and she's looking down, and it's dark. Larry turns around to the parabolic dish and roar. And all you hear is her go, oh shit. Sorry, Stephen.
It's, yeah. I can about come out of my boots. It did get me, because I wasn't expecting that. No.
She was sitting on the edge of the guardrail. I'm glad she didn't go over the back.
Oh, I know. I could have. It could have been really bad. Yeah.
Anyway, after we're all laughing, and he makes a comment about how did she, make boom boom in her pants. It was so funny. It's one of those. I still have that recording. I play it on days when I'm sad.
I do too.
Anyway, so it's just that I just wanted to end on like a
And
funny
it's
note.
probably gonna be on Squatchy Nights audio too. I'm probably
Really?
gonna have it on there. Yeah, it's part of the stuff that happens when you're out researching.
At the expense of your pride.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to end on a good note because as serious as we are in the field, as you guys know, there's so much fun that goes into the field too. Some of my greatest memories have come from going out in the field. And so for the over 20 years of experiences she's had while researching, that's 20 years of memories that she's had also. So I just wanted to end on that note. And
And a wonderful journey.
and it ain't
Love it.
over. It ain't over.
No, it's not. I'm slowed down, but it's still going.
It's still going. So thank you for coming on tonight, Mom. Thank you for
You're
everything
welcome.
you've done for the Sasquatch community, for Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. Thank you for being you, and you have more than earned the title of the legend.
Yep.
Yeah. And thank you for dragging me out in the field so that I could do what you do. Hi, Alan.
Uh-huh.
And passing that on to your little footers, Adam and Xander.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm proud of y'all.
Hi, Alan.
Hey,
Hi, Alan.
hey, thanks for the interview. It was real good.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
said thank you. Thank you for her,
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Thank you guys for being here tonight. And I'm going to let y'all go. And I will see y'all next week. I have not announced the new guest yet, but you guys stay tuned and let me know who you want to have on the next Zoom interview. Yeah.
Your mom again.
Part 2. There's a lot we haven't covered, so that could be a thing. So you guys let me know and I will make it happen.
Ask some more questions.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Fear. We've all experienced it. Everyone knows what it's like to be afraid. That sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach to feel that icy chill run up your spine. Whether it be a ghostly apparition standing at the foot of your bed, or the news of a serial killer prowling the streets of your town, everyone is afraid of something. The fact is, there are terrifying things on this planet, some of them natural, while others remain unexplained in the things of folklore. A lot of us find that the things that scare us the most are also the most fascinating. They cause us not only to draw back in fear, but at the same time draw us in with an unwavering curiosity. From the paranormal and unexplained to true crime and the dangers of our very own planet. You can find all the latest episodes, links to social media, and more on planetfearpodcast.com. And be sure to subscribe to Planet Fear on your favorite podcast platform as we discuss all the things humans fear the most on Planet Fear.